We come to the 23rd chapter here in the book of Joshua, and the 24th chapter, the last chapter, and here you have the last message of Joshua. And here in chapter 23, there is the call to the leaders of Israel for courage and certainty. And then in chapter 24, the call to all the tribes of Israel for consecration and consideration of the covenant with God. And then you have the death of Joshua. In other words, what Joshua is doing is giving really his deathbed speech. Now, this is something that's becoming very familiar here in the Word of God already in the Old Testament. We had first, you remember, that Jacob called his 12 sons about him, and he gave these prophecies concerning them. And then we had Moses calling the 12 tribes. The 12 sons are now 12 tribes, and Moses called them about him at the very end of his life before he went up into the mountain, Mount Nebo, and then he gave his deathbed word to them. Now here is Joshua, who's been their leader now for 40 years, who's brought them into the land, and he's now giving his final message to them before his death. This is, I think, something to note as we go through. Now, as we come to chapter 23, shall we listen to Joshua? It came to pass a long time after that the Lord had given rest unto Israel from all their enemies round about, that Joshua waxed old and stricken in age. And Joshua called for all Israel, and for their elders, and for their heads, and for their judges, for their officers, and said unto them, I am old and stricken in age, and ye have seen all that the Lord your God hath done unto all these nations because of you, for the Lord your God is he that hath fought for you. Now you notice when he calls these leaders around him, and all of the nation, as it were, are represented here, if not there in person. And he tells them, he says, I'm now ready to retire. I'm a senior citizen. And here's my final word to you. Now you have seen what God has done for you. What he's saying is what Paul will say later on, or did say later on, being confident of this very thing, that he which hath begun a good work in you will perform it until the day of Jesus Christ. Now, Joshua's saying to these people, you know what God's done for you. You know how he's led you.